Hello, everybody, to our next episode. Not really one of the episodes of our 5 questions. We had our individual sessions already with these 2 gentlemen that I want to welcome today. Jochen Krisch, Editor-in-Chief of Exciting Commerce and founder of the K5 Conference, and Ian Jindal, CEO of Internet Retailing from the UK. Welcome, gents.
Thank you for having us.
Florian.
As we mentioned already earlier when we started our little intro, it is the day where the K5 conference should normally start. You will see that episode a little bit later in the week, but we thought that it might be good since time goes by and also the challenges that we see and the learnings we see out of this COVID-19 impact should also instruct us to change the setup a little bit. And what we want to discuss today is that we have set ourselves the objective that we want to summarize a few key learnings of the major topics that you should maybe bring up towards your CEO if you're a representative of the digital department to really be prepared as good as possible for everything that might come. Great to have you guys, and thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
So maybe first of all, I think the question is still valid. I hope you're both in good health and nothing happened since we spoke the last time.
No, we've kept well. So maybe you are proof against coronavirus. We should have you tested.
It could be a good option. And what I really realize is that it seems a little bit like people are getting more and more not really comfortable, but they are keen on really dealing with the situation that we face out there. And I see the same in the organizations. What is your experience in the 2 markets that you're working in?
We'd be glad you kick off, Jochen.
Well, yeah, people get accustomed to the situation, maybe, but it's still. I don't know if people get used to this situation, home office and working from home and have all these Zoom meetings and don't meet each other as often as they used to. On the one hand, it's comfortable. On the other hand, it's stressful because I'm not sure if people can achieve as much as they would normally do. But on the other hand, I see the chance that there will be new ways to work and new ways to come up with processes, ideas, etc. So for me, it's positive, basically. But I'm a one-person show with the blog and everything. So I sometimes find it quite comfortable. But of course, in the bigger companies, it's quite stressful.
Mm. I think in some of the big companies, you really need other people to be able to do your work. And so a lot of the activity has been on hold. In the UK, of course, we've just announced that some schools are going back from June the 1st next week. And we'll also see non-essential retail starting up June 15th. So we've gone from, I wonder what will happen, what should we do, to, okay, 14 days, time to plan. So I think it's become a lot more real in the UK in the last day.
So it's more or less getting a little bit a countdown to getting back as, what we call normal, maybe not 100%, but a little bit more towards normal life. But as we discussed before, it can't be normal. So the only people who are anywhere near normality are the grocers, because we still have to eat. But we know about the changes they've had to make in store to pick, pack, delivery. But if you are a clothes store or fast fashion, then you may not have any product. Your stores aren't ready for social distancing. And let's say that revenue comes back to 30, 40% of what you'd expect. Your costs are 130%. So it's not going to be a very comfortable return to business because we've built in loss making as probably the situation for the next 4, 5, 6 months. But if I take that point, Ian, that you just mentioned, is it also then one of the topics that is definitely a part of, let's say, the board discussions in every organization, that supply chain and making really yourself independent from market somewhere in the Far East or whatever, is one of the topics that is key to be able to have the product even in this time?
Yes, that's a real issue, but it's not just about onshore, nearshore, offshore, etc. Especially when you look at some of the fast fashion retailers who already had 10-15% nearshore, so they could respond to trends. And then if a trend is working, they could then use the longer lead time, cheaper things to build in margin. So I don't think that's just the issue. It's more to do with things like cash. So normally, if I'm going to spend €1 billion on spring 2021, it's because I've sold €1.1 billion worth of product now. But as it happens, I've got dead stock in the wrong place and no cash. So I'm not in the mood to spend on new product anyway. I've got more worries about what do I sell over the summer. So I think the challenges are more to do with the fact that all of retail seasons are totally out of sync now.
I'm with you, Ian, especially for these businesses that you described, fashion industry and all these seasonal businesses. On the other hand, I focus a little bit more on the online pure players, mobile pure players. They are a little bit more flexible because they can now get inventory that they probably wouldn't have gotten before. And they have to be more flexible, really, and seize the opportunities that are there. Of course, it's because the other ones are suffering, but I see that they are in a little bit better position. They have to come up with ideas how to sell, how to. Well, the only solution is most of the time discount the products, but maybe they get more creative and to sell these products now that are available. This does not, of course, affect the summer, autumn, winter season. This will be more complicated. Now, I think it's even easier if there will be a summer to sell these kind of products. So this is what I expect, this flexibility and creativity. That's on another side, the same as you mentioned. We don't get back to the normal we had, but then, and this is in fact something I hope for, a new normality that gets more flexible and can deal with situations.
It's interesting you say that, because if you think about what makes companies successful, a lot of the bigger companies would depend upon their size and their efficiency. So they would, and again, I'm making this up, but if you said, for a total head count, maybe 5-10% are involved in trading and 90% are involved in scaling the business. Whereas if you're a small business, you're just trading like a marketplace trader all the time. So those skills will definitely be of benefit in the short term. So I think the question for the bigger companies is, you were great before, highly optimized for the world of December and January. We don't know what's happening for the next 6 months, but how do we optimize for the world of next December, January? And how painful is that switch going to be, where you go from being one optimized thing to another optimized thing?
Yeah, and the question is, will there be optimized things? Or do I have to have this overhead and have structures that keep me flexible? And that this is, sometimes I think the whole industry is too over-optimized. And that's why I thought that these situations are so hard for them. Of course, the argument against it is it's more profitable to be optimized, of course.
Yes. Provided things remain the same. And I think this is the challenge. So if you're an investor and you're looking at the type of returns you get from a retail business in the 1980s, 1990s, early part of the 21st century, then those returns were predicated upon scale, efficiency, and dominance. Whereas now, if you say, we will give up 20% of our shareholder return expectation, so that you can stay a little bit inefficient, but able to change very quickly and flexibly. I think that's going to be the new reality for shareholders, but also for retailers. And what this means, of course, is that you won't be able to afford the level of discounting. So this summer, I think we'll see 50% off in sales routinely. People need the cash, they need to get going. But you can't plan a business that isn't optimized when you're giving away 50% of the top line. So I think we'll end up with fewer products, more expensive, in order to fund this new flexibility.
So if I take it back to our, let's say, meta level topic that we have set for this session, would it be this topic of really bringing up the discussion in the organization, how you can, on the one hand, be as optimized as possible, and then on the other hand, really be that flexible that you're able to really move whatever challenges come along, even if it's overnight? Would that be one of the discussions that should be taken in the organization, instead of only getting more profitable, growing revenues, higher? Is that maybe the new reality?
I would think so. And I think if you take an evolutionary approach, then at every phase of major challenge, it's the flexible, non-specialized organisms that have coped a little better with these major transformations. Mm-hmm. And I think this adaptability is really important. So, if you're an elephant and you've got really, really big ears, it doesn't matter how much you flap your ears, you're not going to fly. You're not going to turn yourself into a butterfly. So I think, we need to be very human. Humans are adaptable, multi-skilled, but we're not particularly brilliant at anything. Flying, swimming, jumping, leaping, whatever. We're pretty good at a lot of things. And so we need to bring that adaptability into the heart of business, because we don't yet know what we're optimizing for.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is a little bit that we have two phases. I have a company that I advise that has a very smart approach. They have a strategy called Plan Ahead, and they have these two phases. So at the moment, there are challenges, and you have to find solutions, and that's it. But on the other hand, you have chances, opportunities that you can seize. And then the next phase is what will be there, or what has to be there. So what do we really learn, and do we want to be more flexible, or even how big should be the size of the business? How big should be the size of the team and the structures? The challenge for most of the online companies is that they are growing much faster than expected. So they have to decide now and make plans for 2021 and 22. What they would have done for 2025, and so they have to make now decisions under this circumstances, where they would need much more time. So and this is interesting too, because it's not easy to, first of all, it's not easy to think of 2025 now concerning logistic structures, or the physical elements of the business, maybe IT infrastructure, etc. And now really do it fast. And this is really a challenge. But apart from this, I think at this phase, we have still a phase. There are the challenges, but there are opportunities too. I see the marketing channels, for instance, are cheaper. You have other opportunities to do your marketing, to do your customer service topics, and we should keep this in mind too. There are the challenges, but as some industry that cannot work in full mode at the moment, and this is and the third focus I would say is partnerships. You can have partnerships with these industries, people from these industries, sometimes service providers from these industries, and you can find cooperation models where both of the parties profit.
Yeah.
And so I always see the challenges, but I want to stress the opportunities too. And when I advise companies, I always tell them to focus on these two.
If I take the last topic you just mentioned, Jochen, is it also a little bit right now leaving out the really good pure players who are already in good shape in all of the processes and focused on the online channel? I get more and more the feeling that this current situation was more or less like a digital accelerator for the ones who were not really in this process of digital transformation, but also for many omni-channel players. They did their projects to become more online and so on, but maybe not with the last essence of consequence. I have the feeling that at the moment, since they are forced to, there happened so much that did not happen over the last decade almost, and that we are getting really much faster to the point. So it's getting a little bit like an agile business adjustment, or however you want to call that. Is that also one of the topics that people are more or less, since they are forced to do things, much more keen to also take the risks and bring things forward?
Well, it's not a risk if you are faced with really difficult choices. So I think what's interesting about the current situation is, especially for people in digital businesses, everything for the last 20 years has been fun. So in every business, the digital people have been getting the budget, they've been getting the growth from a low level, but growth. So this is the first time that everybody has been hit at the same time with an existential set of challenges. This isn't, oh, am I going to pivot? Am I going to improve? It's, oh, money has stopped, customers have stopped, partnerships have stopped, life, oh my goodness, this is a real issue. So I think that's the first time that's happened, along with everybody else suffering. So if you're a retailer who's suffering, but the landlord isn't, you're not negotiating your rent. If you're suffering, but your competitors are not, there's no negotiation. So I think for the first time, and hopefully for the last time in my life, we've had supply chain, the built environment, stores, channels, partners, technology, consumer, governments, regulation. Everybody has had to make a deal. And so this is why I think there's an opportunity to reset a lot of things that hasn't been there before. And I think the other thing then that is interesting is that the crisis has served like a massive training program. So until recently, if you didn't live in the city and you weren't working with a computer, how many people sit at a keyboard all day or on their phone getting emails, doing Skype, doing Zoom calls? No one. So you're always having to train your customer, please come online, please adopt, please do this. Now, thank you very much. Everybody knows how to do conference calls. There isn't anybody left who isn't at least competent digitally. They don't like it, but they have all been trained. So I think these are two big changes that have made an impact. And we've done some research with consumers, and I'm just looking at the results now, that 93% of the people that we poll are saying now that they have changed the way they think about shopping online. And interestingly, this also involves the people who are already shopping online. So it's not just people are coming new to online. Those who've been online forever appreciate different things. Now, I really appreciate good delivery, being able to book a slot for my grocery, having a brand that has got good customer service, not just a sign saying, oh, there's COVID, we'll answer you in 6 years. Good product descriptions. If I'm trying to buy something online that I can't see or have no chance to go check in stores. Everybody has taken a step up. Standards are higher, and I think that's going to have an impact now as we go back to trading people just aren't going to be very tolerant if you can't trade at the top level.
Mhm.
I think that's the point. That there's acceleration, and even there's opportunity to have a profile against Amazon and the big players, by good customer service or by good delivery options, payment methods, and whatever. And there's this acceleration, and you have the opportunity to really come up with new ideas and seize this opportunity. I think this is the acceleration moment is the most interesting, because people are ready, prepared, and you see it now with we do Zoom, but maybe normal people would go in Instagram live, do these kind of things in a more private environment, and this is a training ground too. So
absolutely. The fact that we're now willing, we're happy to have a doctor's appointment by FaceTime.
Yeah.
Not a problem at all. And so I think those changes to how people see their mobiles, see that remote connection is going to be absolutely fundamental. But we're talking about this mode of acceleration. I think the people who are really going to accelerate out of this are the brands and manufacturers selling direct.
Yeah.
So there are some retailers who are going to do incredibly well. If I look across our top 500, the numbers that are really going to leap out of lockdown and really accelerate are probably 10 or 20, no more than that. But the brands selling direct, they're the ones now who have a massive opportunity. So when we look across Europe, we're seeing around 50% of consumer visits are going into marketplaces. And they have good delivery, fantastic range of product, security of a transaction. It's literally the watering hole where all the big animals come and gather. We're also then seeing that brands have risen from around 18, 90% to maybe 23, 25% of all visits. And I think that's just going to increase. So the people who are going to get squashed coming out of this are the traditional larger retailers who now have to find new purpose and energy in order to re-engage with consumers.
Now we are back to Florian's point, the sense of urgency that these brands and some of the companies have. And I would add, I absolutely agree what you said. I would add that brands have to find new ways of selling, not only on platforms, on marketplaces, but they have to find ways how they want to do it on their own. So what they put, maybe have flagship stores on the high street and everywhere where they could present themselves the way they wanted to be presented. And then I think now they have to find online ways to do the same. And is Instagram an environment? Are some of the new platforms an environment? Can they do it themselves? Can they have to do it with partners? These are the questions, and it's more on the soft side of the business, because it's part of the strategy and the way you want to present yourself and address the customers.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right to raise the point, which is if you're now going from nothing and trying to accelerate into trading, the barriers to entry are so low compared to how they used to be.
Yeah.
And so again, one of the things we're seeing is a growth in on-demand cloud platforms, new channels, where the inertia between idea and trading is very low. And so I think the direct access to consumer via digital channels with on-demand or software as a service platforms is also going to be a characteristic of the accelerating out of lockdown for all the normal reasons, as well as things like cash flow, speed to market, reducing risk, and so on.
And I think at the end of the day, if we summarize all that, it's really kind of bringing forward also this topic of one channel thinking, right? I think someone who is only selling offline, well, tough times ahead. But I think if you're really focusing much more of how to integrate the channels, how to make the experience similar in every channel, how to really make also or create a new level of customer centricity. Everybody's talking about it, but I think at the end of the day, the more channels you add, the happier the customer will be if you do it in the right way. I think this can be
so long as they link in a
Exactly.
seamless way.
Exactly, yes. And this is also, especially if I think about the German market, Jochen, we always have this discussion about that the Germans still prefer to pay cash. What I have seen in the last weeks, it's amazing to see even the 80-year-old pay with their credit cards, right? It was more or less like a completely mind shift due to this external influence of this bloody virus. And I see that on many levels. I think people are, as you mentioned, much more keen on buying things online. They never bought online. I had an interview with the CEO of an analytics tool this morning, and he mentioned, for example, the biggest growing segment in terms of age of the online buyers was the segment of 60 to 80-year-old. So I think there's a lot of digital education coming along with being forced to this channel. On the other hand, I think it enables a lot of opportunities for everybody, for the brands, for the manufacturers. If you do it in the right way, it was never so easy to succeed and get successful in a very fast way.
And it'll also drive other changes as well. So the older generation are going to be asked to shelter at home for longer, which means that the changes they need to support life will last a lot longer. Things like being able, for example, with grocery shopping, what if you want to shop for someone else with their money to their house, but you're doing the admin for them, or you're maybe collecting an order that somebody else has booked for you. So I think there's going to need to be a move away from this one email, one password, one account, to a more social view that recognizes how people shop and work together, live in family units and service each other outside of the financial transaction. So, I think some big changes coming ahead. Another one, for example, is let's say that Jochen and I open a supermarket and you register. Now, I might know how old you are, but I don't know, for example, if you've got diabetes, if you're a healthcare worker, if you're a high priority carer for one of the others. So how do I prioritize you in store? How do I support you online? So many changes can be driven to the new ways of interacting with customers that, as I said, are not just about the moment of transaction.
I'm absolutely with you. And I think now we see very clearly the opportunities on the other hand, what's missing. But the interesting thing for me is that almost all the solution or ideas are already there. But now people look for these tools and service providers, and they kind of flourish in this environment, and they had such a hard time explaining why you need it and what to do with it, and this is so interesting to see that things happen in such a small amount of time now.
How important is the whole topic of automation in your perspective? Because what I currently see is, if I hear the growth numbers that the digital channels are really facing at the moment, it's not only generating, it's also really facing a lot of new challenges around that. And is it possible to organize customer service in the way we did before this crisis? Or do we need much faster chatbots, automated, whatever? How important is that? How do we deal with the data? Is automation one of the upcoming topics? Maybe in the right balance, with still having also the people and the headcount to really manage all this? Or don't you think that this will get another significant impact?
I wouldn't call it automation because it sounds so bad. But if we talk about personalization and all of these functions that we need, because automation for me always sounds like everyone gets the same service. And this cannot be the goal. The goal has to be that people really get what they need or what they expect, and there can be service levels, and some is more expensive and some is not as expensive. So generally I would agree that there have to be tools and services that make it easier for everyone. But that's probably the hardest point that you address. I'm not sure if we are ready for this.
I just don't think that automation will be a topic. I think the big question is going to be around outsourcing. So you can't outsource something that doesn't work. And so people aren't going to have the time to create new process, optimize it, automate it. I think they're going to say to someone like, Jochen, do you know what you're doing? Yes. Can you handle 100 calls a minute? Yes. Here are the standards. Thank you very much. Off you go, Jochen. Don't talk to me for a long time because I'm busy. So I think we'll see a growth in specialist, low-touch, rapid deployment models, and so smaller solutions that are outsourced rather than automation, because people haven't got time or the understanding and clarity yet to know what they should be automating. But I do think that we'll be under such immense cost pressure that if you go to your board and say, I'd like to start an 18-month improvement project, no one's going to greenlight that unless they have spare cash or particularly confident view. And I also don't think that anything that's too complicated is going to get much time either. So unnecessary things stripped out, focus on delivering the experience and service the customer wants, but using outsourced partners who can spin up quickly.
Yeah, very interesting topics, I would say already. Taking a look at our time, I think there's room for one more topic maybe that we can cover before we come to an end. I come back again and again to this old discussion, Jochen, that we also had several times. Pure play versus classically physical store omnichannel. How important is it if we think it from a pure play towards some physical stores or vice versa? Who will benefit more? The omnichannel player who was really very strong in physical and right now has the chance to extend his digital channels or vice versa?
I think I kind of cannot answer the question, but the point for me is, I think now everyone recognizes the importance of a good online experience. It will help in any way. If your stores work again, then it's fine. But if they don't work, it's absolutely necessary. And I hope this is the message of this crisis, because this is something, of course, we preach it and tell it to everyone, and that you have to have professional online service, not only an online store and some kind of thing that now it's and I think that there are some traditional retailers that really the business works online because they have structures and processes that can compete with all these companies online, and I think that's important. If there will always be people who want to go to the store, and they should, if it's a profitable business, that's fine. I'm a little bit skeptical on this point, but if customers want it, yes. And what I expect more, that online retailers, they need a logistics infrastructure that is closer to the customers. And it's not sure if it will be a store or a showroom with a big inventory in the back, whatever it will be. I think this is the time the customer expects the parcel or the product to arrive.
Having visibility on that, especially when you're going cross-border, because now you're buying more things across borders because availability is an issue. But I don't totally agree with your question, though, Florian. I'm sorry to say. When we look at our top performing retailers. In our top 500, I think we've only got 8 companies that are online only pure plays. So I'm not even sure that being just an e-commerce business actually exists, because you have physical product, physical supply chain, physical delivery, physical experience. So outside of Netflix, where everything is digital, consumed digitally, everybody else, whether it's Uber, physical cars, physical drivers, physical locations, Deliveroo, physical food from real restaurants to real homes. I just don't accept that there is this nirvana of digital-only businesses. So I think that's the first thing. But I do think that there is what I would call a digital mindset. And we've talked about this now for 12, 15 years about, is there a digital mindset within the leadership, which I've characterized by a model-based approach, flexibility, trial, test, measure, optimize, these kind of, some people call them agile, but I just call them digital mindsets. I think that mindset is something we are going to see. But again, to echo Jochen's point, digital, we can make promises in a millisecond, but we need physical infrastructure to deliver on our promises. And so it's blending digital mindset with physical capability repeatedly at scale, at profit. That's what modern retail is.
And I agree, this is the more important discussion that we should have. And the other discussion is very backwards, but this one will really help to shape the future and to I like this digital mindset, especially mindset. It's something, either you have it or you don't have it.
Yeah.
Of course, you can learn it, but you have to be prepared to.
I've just realized we should have had this conversation. There's bound to be a perfect German word that means forward-looking, digital, flexible mindset. Maybe that should be a competition, Florian, for the viewers of this to come up with the perfect word.
I can ask everybody, just put your suggestions in the commenters. How do you say that? In the posts below our session. Yeah,
that's great. And I think, Florian, that whoever wins, we should look at them, decide who wins, and you should send them a bottle of champagne as a thank you.
Definitely promised, and we will also tell everybody who it was. But maybe to clarify it briefly, I also believe that if you take the best things out of each world, combine that in a good way with this digital mindset of really developing things as integrated as possible, that will be the winners. And I think it's way easier if you have some digital process already in place to adopt them backwards, maybe also to the physical world, as Amazon does, as Alibaba does at the moment. But at the end of the day, I think the mindset is the most important thing that drives you forward. And that means maybe also for the HR department, we might need slightly different people to master all the challenges ahead and need to adjust our organization that it can be that flexible, that adaptable, with the right mindset, and being able to have rapid development, outsourcing to specialists, and maybe the focus on do and deliver whatever the challenges are. This is a little bit what I have taken down as notes based on the discussion we had so far.
All I would add to, I agree, great summary, is that when we say we need new people, I think the last 12 weeks has shown that the people in retail have shown flexibility, great character, resilience. Yeah. And so I don't think it's a case of finding new people. It's looking at the talent we have in our business, investing in that, and going on a journey with our employees, our stakeholders, and our customers. Because, one thing that this pandemic has shown is that, we are in the same world together. And so we can build what comes out of it together.
We can see how the circumstances change the minds, and now people are much better prepared. So I'm optimistic.
So as a summary, we have a bright future ahead, no matter what second wave or whatever other virus might come along. I think some very valuable insights from the UK. Thank you, Ian.
My
From
pleasure.
Germany. Thank you, Jochen.
Thank you,
And
Jochen.
I'm really looking forward when we are finally able to meet again for a nice dinner. Looking forward to that, guys, and stay safe and have a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Florian.